Knowing is nice, but doing is better. A lot of you in my starting over video wanted to know what the weekly routine is looking like. So here it is. I think it's important to add some context first, because there's no point you blindly copying what I'm going to share in this video, hoping that it might work for you, when in fact we're in both very different situations. There's definitely something missing. I'm currently carrying off about 18 months of much less training and also recovering from an injury. Therefore, my focus really isn't on anything in particular. I'm not chasing any particular goals. Instead, my focus is on two things: building capacity and consistency. When we train over the period of months or years, our activity gradually will increase as our capacity, our ability to perform work allows. When we get a period where either we get injured or maybe we take a long break from exercise, our capacity and our activity levels will decrease. Now, if you do not manage this correctly, this is when you go back to training, either after an injury or a break. Usually we're not psychologically adapted to know where we are at. Our perceived level of fitness is not our actual level of fitness, and we try to jump back in at a higher level than we're able to manage. We then risk the chance of re-injury and overtraining because our capacity is lower, our ability to do work is lower, and we end up in this downward spiral of no gains, being weak, and just generally sucking. Maybe that one's a bit more personal than anything. I want to read you just finally a recommendation from this book, a fantastic book if you are interested in learning more about training, as to what you should do if you're in this position. If the objective of an individual training program is limited to retaining a general fitness level, athletes should take several steps. The body weight must be kept constant. These athletes should also do calisthenics and perform an aerobic activity to provide the minimal combined load required to retain fitness. Muscular strength, flexibility, aerobic capacities, and stable body weight must be maintained. And yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. So I've been splitting my training into 4 sessions per week. Each of these sessions are lasting just 30 to 40 minutes. There is one upper body session and one lower body session. These are both more heavier on the strength training. Then there is also another upper body session. This one is more rehab focused. And then the final video is another lower body session, more focused around flexibility. These upper body sessions be mainly focused around developing the basics. And remember, basics aren't for beginners. The basics are the foundational elements that make up the overall practice. So in this case, like push-ups, and bodyweight rows. The session has been focused more around higher rep stuff, so a little bit lower intensity and shorter rest periods. Basically getting used to adding more work in shorter durations over time and just getting the reps in. Here's the example of kind of what I've been doing. And because these exercises are performed back to back, short rest, kind of as groups, it ends up being like a 1-to-1 work-rest ratio. So the intention here is that it's as much endurance, CV, cardiovascular, as it is strength training to build that fitness up. For lower body, it's kind of the same deal, but there's an element of flexibility involved. As I mentioned in the path to starting to get strong and flexible, you want to include the basics. You want to include a squat or a lunging pattern, and you want to include a hip hinge. I've got some extra focus in this particular workout on my lower back because I know that's a weakness, not necessarily my hamstrings in the posterior chain. Just like the upper body session, it's higher reps, it's lower rest, and it's done in a way to incorporate some sort of endurance cardiovascular aspect to build fitness. Here's the example workout if you want to go give it a go. Be warned, it is tougher than it looks. For the more rehab focused day, I'm going to spend an entire video talking a little bit more about the process of rehabbing from injuries and what I've gone through, because it's a little bit more specific. But essentially the focus is on developing weak areas and then exploring and strengthening the range that I was injured in and gradually building it up to be pain-free and back to full capacity. The flexibility session, the lower body one, is also reflective of this. I haven't got any major flexibility goals at the moment. I'm just looking to build all-round flexibility. So the session is focused on generally the big 5. I'm basically picking one movement and I'm just doing that for 2 to 3 sets and just strengthening through all of those different ranges of motion. In this particular session, we're doing arch-ins for the bridge. I'm doing Jefferson curls for pike. I'm doing a weighted hip flexor stretch for the front split, a tailor pose for the middle split, and some seated good mornings for the pancake. Really nice, simple training. Doesn't need to be overcomplicated. This stuff just works when you're consistent at it and build it progressively over time. And finally, this daily work. This is really what fills in the gaps of the rest of the training. Just making sure there is adequate movement throughout the day, getting in 10,000 sets. I like to do some easy sort of strength training, whether that just be some push-ups, a couple of pull-ups here and there, something to grease the groove. And the same thing goes with flexibility, although this one is a little bit more chilled out, something that's like the follow-alongs that share on this channel, just done in the evening. And again, this doesn't really take up too much extra time because it's generally built into the things that I do every single day. Like I have to walk Coach Molly, she needs to go for a stroll, and then during that time I might do also like 10 to 20 minutes of light aerobic conditioning, something like tempo intervals or just a very, very slow, easy jog, just to keep that base level of conditioning there. So I just want to note that maybe this seems like a lot of training, but I think just on paper it looks that way, whereas in reality it's not actually loads. It's like 4 half-an-hour sessions, some daily work built into the activities that I'm doing every day anyway, and it just kind of has most things covered for the moment, at least. As I said, this is a very general approach. I've not got any specific goals at the moment. I'm just looking to building fitness, building conditioning, building that base to then work on those higher peaks. As always, if you have any questions about this one, I'd love to hear your opinion. Questions, thoughts, comments, leave them in the comment section down below. You can also hit that thumbs up button, subscribe button, join for the ride. We keep sharing these building back sort of videos. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a strong week.